What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode. So if you guys saw yesterday's video, I showed you guys how to install coilovers on your 370Z because each and every one of you guys have a 370, right? Right. So what we're gonna be doing today is we're gonna be raising the car up in the air, we're gonna put it on jack stands, and we're gonna get it so that we can dial in the suspension so that the ride height is pretty good. So right now, it's actually too low, and this coils have actually settled about another ½ an inch. Now, I went ahead and I already raised up the front just a little bit so that it's at a normal riding level so I can actually drive the vehicle out of my driveway. But what I still need to do is raise the rear and get it so that it's equal from left to right. So I'm gonna show you guys how I'm gonna do all of that. I'm gonna measure the preload, measure the ride height, make sure everything's good. And then at that point, we can take the Z for a spin and I can let you guys know how awesome these coilovers are going to be to drive. So I have installed on the car some Fortunato 500 coilovers with some upgraded Swift springs. I have an 11K setup up front and an 8K setup in the rear. What does that mean? Well, I don't know yet. We're gonna find out once I actually take the car out on the road. But in the meantime, let's get the Z jacked up in the air and start working on this thing. So with the wheel removed from the car, we can see that we have the coilover that's found behind here. So you can see that we have the lower part of the cup, we have our upper locking collar for the cup, we have the shock body that goes all the way up to the top, and you can see right here that we have some more locking collars. So we have a lower one here and an upper one. Now these two there are what control the spring preload that's found up top. Now these do not affect ride height whatsoever. What affects the ride height is this shock body in relation to this cup. So you can make it so that the shock body gets raised or dropped, and that all encompasses inside of this bottom cup. So what we're going to be first doing today is we're going to be changing the preload, measuring it so it's the exact same thing from left side to right side, and get it down so that both sides have the exact same kind of specifications. So whenever you purchase a set of coilovers, you're going to get included a set of spanner wrenches or coilover wrenches, and you use these to change up each one of these collars so it's either higher or lower, and you can lock them together using these tools. Now we're going to be using these to adjust all the collars, both found up top, that's holding the spring and the preload in place, along with the perches down on the bottom that controls the ride height. So what we're first going to do is we're going to address the preload up here. So the preload is already set in here, and what you're going to be trying to do is have it so that this spring is not loose inside of the shock body. If this spring up here were to be loose and there isn't enough preload, what would happen is whenever you go over bumps, you'd hear a kind of clinking noise because the shock body would relieve all the pressure on here, it'd make the spring loose, and then whenever you go back up and you hit that bump, it's going to slam down and try and compress this, and it'll accommodate for the little gap that's in here. So the proper way to set this would be to relieve all the preload that's found on this spring. You're going to tighten the top collar up by hand, and then once you have that done, you're going to tighten it the total thickness of your other spanner wrench. So whenever there's a gap in between the top part and the bottom part, and you can stick your spanner wrench inside of there, that there is when you'd set the preload. Now that is based on a linear spring. On a progressive spring, it's going to be slightly different. So on a spring like this is completely linear, which means that this entire coil has the exact same amount of compression rate throughout the entire stroke. To physically go ahead and change the preload on this spring, you're going to attach the smaller of the coilover spanners on the lower perch and the larger one on the top. And you're going to crank these in opposite directions until the lower collar down here is loose. Now once it's loose, you're going to be able to go ahead and turn the upper collar and relieve or tighten up and increase the amount of preload that you have on this spring. You can get super technical, like if you want your car to turn better one way than another, you'd set the preload to be different from one side versus the other. But if you're working with a circuit car or just something that you want a daily, having the same amount of preload from left to right is ideal. Whenever you're done, just lock both of these up and then you're going to be done with that setup. Following the preload adjustment found up top, you're going to then follow up by changing the ride height if you want to do it then. So you'd first want to start off with that and then do the ride height. So what we're going to be doing is the same kind of thing where we're going to be loosening up the upper collar from the bottom one so that we can change the ride height. So you're gonna grab the smaller of the two spinner wrenches, click it into the collar, and then you're gonna turn this counterclockwise until it's loose like that. Following that, we need to rotate the entire shock body assembly so that the entire coil will actually spin and it'll keep the bottom cup stationary. That will make it so that the entire shock will either go up or down, depending on which way you turn it. So if we did a good job by tightening up the upper collars up here when we change the preload, what we can do with this now loose, we would attach this to the lower collar found up here, and we can turn the entire thing. Now, depending on how new your coils are, you might be able to rotate the entire thing and do it all by hand. But if it's super stuck, that's how you would get that done. And if you notice, the entire spring, both collars, and everything is moving. Now, if you were to go ahead and use that same procedure by loosening or tightening up the entire shock body assembly by turning it this way or this way, and only the lower collar moves, that means that it's not tightened up to the preload and you're actually adjusting that too. So take note of that when you guys are doing this procedure. Keep an eye on both of these collars. You want both of them to spin at the same rate. So you're just gonna turn this, adjust it to whatever you want, and then whenever you're done, you can lower down the upper collar, grab your spanner wrench, tighten that up, and then replicate this exact same thing for the opposite side. So if you guys are doing this procedure, be sure to have both wheels off when you're doing this measurement. You wanna have it so that both of these sides of the vehicle have the exact same kind of weight on them, the same amount of preload, the same amount of everything. Now, it's very important to be very precise when you're doing these kind of things. So what I like using, just to get a ballpark idea as to what's going on, I'll use a measuring tape so I can be somewhat close. And then after I've kind of got it, I can make any kind of fine adjustment or fine tuning with a digital caliper like this. Now you can use a caliper that's digital or an analog one. They both work, they both do the trick, and they'll both help you get it so that the ride height and all the adjustments from left to right are identical. So this procedure goes for the same thing if you're working with coilovers that have the coil and the shock all attached in one unit. And it also works if you have an OEM style where the shock and the spring are two different components. It's important to have it so that all those measurements are the same from left to right so that once you're driving your car, you're not gonna have any kind of issues. Your car is going to be predictable when you're driving it. It's not gonna wanna surprise you or snap out, if you turn left one way and then turn right another. So at that point, you're gonna have it so that the car is gonna be well balanced and you can drive nicely with it. Now, once you have coils, the best, hands down, best way to get in alignment afterwards is by doing a 4-corner balance. So what they'll do is they'll have the vehicle on 4 individual scales. They'll measure the weight from left to right, and it will technically be different. I don't care how good you are at installing coils, it will be different from left to right. So that's why when you bring it to a 4-corner balancing place, what they're gonna do is they're gonna adjust the height of each of the springs so that from left to right, you have the exact same amount of weight, which makes it so that the car is incredibly balanced. So technically, the car from left to right is going to weigh more or weigh less. It also makes a difference if you're sitting in the driver's seat and also if you have a passenger with you. That weight will affect your balance. So just keep that into consideration once you guys are doing this. A place that'll do a 4-corner balance, if they're good, they'll replicate the same amount of body weight as you and put that in the driver's seat so that once you're driving in the vehicle, it's going to be balanced then. So technically, when you're not in the car, it's not going to be fully balanced. But once you're driving it, it's going to be bang on. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the passenger side, and I'm also going to do the same thing for the front struts so that I have a good amount of clearance, a good amount of ride height, and then after that, once these coils settle, I'll get it dialed in, I'll have it probably lowered a little bit more, I'll get the camber dialed in there nicely, and I'm going to have it so the Z is going to drive super nice. One last thing that you guys can do if you guys want to make sure that all these collars stay in place and you can actually visually tell and inspect it, you can grab one of these oil-based Sharpies. I'll have a link for these in the description box. You can get them in any kind of color, and you can just basically just grab this guy here and put like a little tick on the threads and on the collar. So if this moves in relation to the shock body, you'll actually notice that. So, okay, well I got some in my hand, but that's basically all you'd pretty much do. So once you do that, you'll be able to tell if anything's going to move. You could do that for the lower collars, and you can also do them for the upper collars. So I just went and took the Z for a rip. The front end doesn't scrape, doesn't rub, doesn't do anything, and it's nice. The rear technically still does it a little bit, but it's only off of like larger bumps. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise the back just a tiny bit, and I'm gonna turn the dampening up. Now on top of that, the tire that I have in the back is a 325. So it's a massive tire. Now the problem that I have with it is that it is technically a slightly oversized tire. So this is 4% too big. So what I'm going to be doing is replacing this 325 with probably a 295, and it's gonna be a little bit well, it's not gonna be as big, it's gonna be slightly smaller, and I'm really hoping that that's gonna make it so it's not gonna rub. It's gonna be the same Cup 2 tires, and I'm gonna go pick them up this weekend, so should be good. But in the meantime, it sits nice, I like it. I'm probably gonna dial it in and play around with it a little bit more, but that's pretty much what you would do. Now, should you also want to go ahead and change how the shocks react with bumps, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be playing around with the rebound or the dampening. So on coilovers that are pretty nice, you'll have a knob that adjusts the dampening and the rebound all in one. Now, if you get a really nice, super expensive set of coilovers, you're going to have individual adjustments for each of them. So you can customize the way that it rebounds and dampens individually. So on a set of coilovers like this that are nice, but not, you know, a shit ton of money, you're gonna have a knob that's found on the top of the strut. It's kind of difficult to see, but it's down there. You're gonna have that on the tops of each one of your struts. You can adjust how soft or smooth it's going to react with bumps. So if you wanted to have it so that it's really stiff, you know, you have a kind of harsh ride, you're gonna turn it so that it's harder, so it doesn't allow fluid to get from one side of the shock to the other as fast. Now you can make that opening larger or smaller, and you can play around with how the car is gonna feel. But that's pretty much the basics of what you'd wanna do when you're setting up coilovers. Once you get it to the ride height that you want, if you can send this out to go get 4-corner balanced, you're laughing. That's the ideal setup, and you're gonna get the best kind of traction, best kind of balance, and the most amount of predictability out of your car by doing that. Now, if you guys have any questions regarding the videos or anything else for that matter, comment section's down there. You guys know what to do. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.